Alright, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all having a good day. So I've got quite the interesting video for you all in this one. So today we're going to be looking at 10 things you didn't know you could do in Halo Infinite. Now, these are going to be some really weird mechanics or somewhat lesser known techniques that you can use viably in-game that will give you an advantage over most players in Infinite. What I love about this game is there's still so much untapped potential in unlocking a lot of these like techniques and using things creatively in a way that nobody else has dreamed of yet. So I had a lot of fun putting this one together, and I genuinely hope you guys learned something out of this or just find it enjoyable. Also, I want to give a shout out to Standard Ace, who I believe was the first to discover a few of these, so I'll leave the link to his channel down below in the description. But yeah, anyways, I did work pretty hard putting this video together, so if you enjoyed it all, I would really appreciate a like rating, and if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Halo content. Around 83% of my viewers are not currently subbed, and we've been growing incredibly fast with Halo, so we ain't slowing down anytime soon. But with that being said, let's get started with our number 10 spot. So this one is honestly really neat, and you actually have the ability, whether you're using a gravity hammer or an energy sword, you have the ability to parry one another. So for example, even if you're up in close range, the energy sword player is not always guaranteed to get the kill if you attack during a very specific window of the gravity hammer. I'm showing you from the energy sword user's point of view, but even if you have the gravity hammer and the energy sword is about to swing on you, if you hit each other at the same time, both lose your overshield obviously, but you'll actually end up parrying off of one another, and so you can either choose to back up and reposition that way, or aggress and try to go in and confirm the kill. But either way, it is cool to see that there is like some degree of a defensive play when it comes to these two melee items, because it seems like in a lot of ways the gravity hammer is just kind of the one that would be dominant in a lot of cases, but it's not always true. Taking number 9 is a technique that if you've played any other Halo game in the past, I'm pretty sure you have seen this before, but since we have a lot of new players in Infinite, I wouldn't be surprised to know that a lot of players don't really know how to use the plasma pistol swap technique effectively. Now in Infinite, you do need to completely hold down your trigger button, otherwise it will fire every time you go to change weapons. Now the point of doing this is to have your plasma pistol basically at full charge for whatever scenario you run into. As long as you're holding down your trigger as you're swapping weapons and not letting go of it, you can bring it to full charge and then put it away and quickly bring it back out with very little downtime in between. To use this optimally, you need to pair it with something like a BR, an AR, or even a pistol, something that's like fast firing and is fairly good in precision, just to finish off a kill, because likely what happens is you'll take somebody's overshield out, but it's not actually going to get the kill just from the single plasma pistol shot alone. But otherwise, it's a good way to start a fight for sure. So coming in at number 8 is using the drop shield equipment that you can find on the ground to counter energy swords. Now, the way this works is somebody is approaching you with an energy sword, you can quickly lay down your own drop wall in front of them, and if you position yourself in a way where you're just behind the wall and the energy sword user doesn't walk past the wall themselves and they try to swing at the front of it, it's actually not going to kill you. And you can see in this clip the only reason this person died was because they jumped, and you can see that the drop wall did actually not lose any squares on it, but if I melee it here, the square does go away, and every square basically represents a saved hit that you won't die from. So it basically buys you enough time to avoid one hit of an energy sword, but really nothing more. It's not super viable, but it is interesting to know. It is some degree of protection against like hardcore energy sword users. Coming in at the number 7 spot was something originally only like a few Halo Infinite players were doing, but actually the more I watch gameplay now, mostly everybody seems to be doing this to some extent, but this is changing the enemy and friendly UI color in your game. And for a while, I was getting a lot of questions in my videos about why I changed the color, how I changed the color, and what's the advantage in doing so. Now, basically, you can do this for yourself in any customization option you want to by going into your accessibility, changing the enemy, friendly, and fire team UI colors. The most important one here, in my opinion, being changing enemy UI to sunshine, and that's the one that you're seeing in my gameplay. One reason it's done is it is a little more representative of classic Halo and the way those overshields used to look in older games, but also just genuinely it's easier to see them than the default red. I went back and played the default blue and red settings that Infinite launches with, and I had like a little bit more of a harder time seeing enemies, oddly enough. So I do recommend the yellow literally just for visibility, but also if you've played older Halo, it just makes it feel a little bit more natural that way. But technically you can change it to whatever colors you like. But moving on and coming in at number 6, you can actually shoot all of the grenade pads in game for sort of like an area of effect explosion. So wherever grenades spawn in any map, you can blow them up sort of on demand. Now, weirdly enough, when I was recording these, I could get grenades to blow up with every weapon I was using except the standard AR. Everything would blow up in one shot, including the pistol, but when I was using the AR, it was like I was shooting it with a BB gun or something. It just wasn't working, and I'm not sure if that was a glitch particular to my game, but everything else seemed to have worked in. You can blow these grenades up and use them tactically. A lot of players like to camp grenades or like around that area, so you can either use this to push them out and force them to reposition or do something dumb, or if you don't want to pick them up, or if you've got full grenades already, you can just use it to starve the enemy of resources, to be honest. Like, if they're holding down one side of the map, you can just blow up all their grenades, so they have less to work with. It's actually not a bad idea. But anyways, coming in at the number 5 spot is one of a few reload techniques we're going to look at. So these are crucial when it comes to deciding how you approach gunfights, especially with multiple targets. Basically, in Halo Infinite, one thing you need to know is it's slightly faster to reload before you completely drain the magazine of the weapon you're using. Now, I'm going to be honest, the difference is very minuscule. It comes down to a few milliseconds, but sometimes in gunfights, when you're evenly matched with an opponent, you start shooting at the same time, and perhaps, you know, you waste all of your ammo, or in this case, not all of your ammo. Sometimes it's better to disengage the gunfight very slightly to reload while they go and reload after completely draining their magazine, and you'll actually be guns ready slightly faster than they will. Again, the difference in this one is very, very minuscule, and it's hard to tell the difference, but there is another reload technique that we're going to look at, which again is still kind of minuscule, but much faster in comparison. But coming in at number 4 is a reload technique that is not only better in my eyes, but is far more practical as well. So in Infinite, of course, the most basic way to win a gunfight is to use your weapon and to swap to another weapon, right? And then immediately start firing that as soon as possible. Now, there is a little bit of delay in between swapping, but if you drop your weapon instead, it's actually a little bit faster on your second gun's raise time. So effectively, this means that especially in the beginning of a game when everybody is only rocking like an AR and a pistol, and you're in a one-on-one gunfight with somebody, if you guys both drain your ARs, breaking each other's shields, and then having to swap to your pistol, most likely, the one who drops their weapon is 9 times out of 10 probably going to win the gunfight instead of the person who swapped. Now, the downside is, of course, that you dropped your weapon, so if you still want it, you're going to have to pick it up and waste time doing that a little bit, so there is a trade-off, and it's not just like free kills that way. But I will say, recently, I've been using this technique and applying it in-game, and it's surprisingly very practical. I sincerely hope they keep it in the game because it's one of those mechanics that make Halo Infinite interesting. So coming in at number 3 is using your jump out of slide and then also understanding how the action queuing works. So basically, in Halo Infinite, you can sprint and then jump, and whatever action you queue up in the air will be executed when you hit the ground. So you can slide if you hold your crouch button while you're in the air, for example. You can also do this in the reverse, in which you queue up a slide first and then jump out of the slide animation to sort of hover and glide across the ground like you're seeing in the gameplay. It's a really efficient way to get around, and it actually makes your hitbox just like a bit harder for enemies to track. It's just a really good movement option. You can also use the slide queuing technique on a downward slope to grab a huge amount of momentum and speed, and then use that to launch yourself by jumping out of that slide once you've hit the ramp, and this can be done basically anywhere in the map. So coming in at number 2 is the grapple slingshot technique. Now, you can kind of think of this almost as like Titanfall kind of movement, or even if you're like a Pathfinder main in Apex, it's kind of the same sort of idea. But essentially, you lean yourself into your line to gather momentum and then fling yourself in the opposite direction. Now, I'll be honest, it's much easier on a mouse and keyboard than it is on a controller, which is primarily what I play, and I assume a lot of Halo players do as well. But if you're on a controller, you need to be on a relatively high sensitivity in order to take full advantage of this, but you can gather insane amounts of speeds from the grapple shot by using this technique, and can get around the map at literal criminal speeds. I think based on this, the grapple shot is one of the most underdeveloped, like, utilized mechanics in the game. I think as Infinite goes on, people are going to get a lot better with how to, you know, use the grapple shot, and this is only just the beginning, but it's something worth getting good at, just jumping into, like, a training mode and practicing with it. Not only is it very practical as well, and even in ranked mode, it's something you'll want to have under your belt, but it's also just a lot of fun to do. Anyways, coming in today at the number 1 spot of things you might not have known about Halo Infinite, there is a way to actually shoot weapons like this faster, specifically the sniper rifle, and among many others. This is the fastest you can do it normally, but there is a technique using double shot that looks like this that actually allows you to shoot 2 shots basically in rapid succession. Now, the inputs to do this are pretty straightforward, but it has to be executed in a fairly tight window, so you need to have something like a sniper rifle, or this even works with a rocket launcher, but you shoot one bullet, you begin the reload, you then use your your equipment using a thruster or a grapple shot, and then you fire your weapon again. And doing all 4 of these inputs in a very tight window will allow you to do this double shot technique. Now, as opposed to something like dropping your weapon instead of swapping to something else, I feel like this one is significantly less practical in real matches. That being said, however, I have seen it being used before, and if you get really good and comfortable with doing this technique and all these inputs, I wouldn't be surprised if people actually get very efficient with applying these in either ranked games or just public matches in general. Nonetheless, it's something really cool and something that exists in Halo Infinite. I figured you guys would be interested in seeing. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy watching, and you may have learned something that you previously didn't see before in Halo Infinite. And if you want more Halo content like this, make sure to subscribe before you go. That would be very much appreciated. And I also do stream over on Twitch. If you don't already follow me, link to that's down below as well. But plenty more Halo content coming very soon on this channel, so thank you guys for sticking around. I really appreciate it. But have a great rest of your day, everyone. Happy holidays, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, and peace out.